Sure. Well, I'm Ben, but most people know me around these parts as the Rotted Zombie, and I'm a Hearthstone player for Amberflight Gaming. And more specifically, I play in the wild format. And what that is, that's all the cards from every expansion that ever was printed, including the Hall of Fame, the stuff that's just too strong and was rotated. That's where I play. And so what I do for the team is I play my game. I write for Tempo Storm, where I'm the wild format meta snapshot lead. And I just try my best to put a positive face on any and everything I do related to Hearthstone. I used to stream, but not as much these days. Sort of life and work caught up with me. And so I'm looking to transition more now into sort of Hearthstone and other areas for AFG. Just here I am. Oh, just a few, just a couple. One of the nice things about that question is I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually. My daughter is just about to be 7. And so we're right at the age where if I'm not playing Hearthstone or I'm not like doing one or two little things for myself, I'm playing with her. And so we're playing a lot of Stardew Valley. We're playing a lot of games on the Nintendo Switch. And it's really rewarding to see her grow up doing the things that I enjoyed doing with my dad. And so I try to play a lot of cooperative games for her and for that reason. Beyond that, I like to play a lot of first-person shooter games, other card games, and I try to be a connoisseur. I just love it all. As you could probably see over my shoulder here, I've got quite a bit of Fallout memorabilia. That's kind of a thing I like, and just a couple Snorlaxes. It absolutely is to an extent. And so to give a little background first, like I said, I play the wild format, and I wouldn't say it's as competitive as standard, but it's still very competitive. And I try my best to get a decent leaderboard finish when I can, and to continue to hone my skills. I've used sort of off meta leagues to do that, like Team Earth League. I play with a few teams there. And so I just try to keep up my competitive play and be a strong player without a specific goal of like reaching X placement on the legend ladder. I just want to feel like I'm continuing to improve as a player and to have results that demonstrate that. And I mean, beyond that, I've played a bunch of games competitively. If I adjust my camera slightly, you'll see there's a medal right there in the corner from when I went to a LAN in Texas and medaled in PUBG. So it takes all kinds, I guess, also card games and shooters. But going forward, I kind of want to find the egalitarian angle for competition. And it's sort of like why I write for Tempo Storm. I want to be able to give people who might not otherwise feel they can be competitive some tools to take that first step, and sort of to exemplify that in my own play, and to sort of be a positive force for people who might want to follow exactly one step behind me. Now, that's a very, very difficult question. I would say it's probably the game I have played the most. And it's the game that I've gotten the most sort of like incremental personal satisfaction out of, sort of as a combination of me really liking card games and liking the Warcraft universe in which Hearthstone is set. It's a really difficult question to answer more broadly, though, because I would have to think back to the games I first played with my father, some of the Fallout games I dumped hundreds and hundreds of hours in at pivotal points in my life. I would say it's one of my favorite games, absolutely. My favorite card game, assuredly. But there's just too much out there to be able to say definitively that it is my game. He says as he has a jersey with Wild Hearthstone on the back. But you see what I'm getting at, right? There's so much out there, and I love so much of it that, yes, Hearthstone is my favorite game, but so is some are some of the original Zelda games on the Nintendo. It's such a wide spectrum. Well, I would have to say that the one I'm most known for is the one I've adopted in a lot of my social media, which is Happy Ghoul, an old card that was a staple in like Heal Zoo Warlock, if that rings a bell to anyone, way back in the day. And the idea of, like a grinning, happy-go-lucky undead sort, and the rotted zombie, and then the persona I try to put out there. There we are. But more practically, probably any one of the main Death Knight cards from Knights of the Frozen Throne, like Blood Reaper Gul'dan, Shadow Reaper Anduin, those are some of the cards I really identify with, and I've played probably the most of any. So I'm kind of pretty excited for the coming Death Knight class. I'm just going to say it. Absolutely. I began to mention before that I really want to be a voice for accessibility. Isn't quite the right word, but it kind of is, because when you think of accessibility, you think of like access for people who might not otherwise get into something. But I just want to be a positive force more. I want to demonstrate to people that if they put in just a little bit of time and give something a little bit of thought, that they can compete at a reasonably high level. You don't need to be a Masters Tour player. You don't need to, grind for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, just hundreds of hours. And I want to sort of demystify some of this top level stuff that I think some people might see as a barrier to entry. If you want to take that game from the casual level to slightly more, that's kind of where I want to land in terms of my own personal goals and then what I would like to bring to the community. Plus, I just kind of like being a part of it, and I want to be just a cool, nice guy in the community. Hello. Oh. Now that is a really interesting question, and one that I could begin to dive into in any number of ways. I could talk about the mini set expansions, and I like them, but I'm not sure if I like them more than just like one big expansion per cycle. I'm not sure how I feel about sort of the way they're expanding classes. I like the idea of Death Knights, for example, just because that's cool for me. But it's worked out with Demon Hunter, so what can you do? Oh boy. We could talk about targeted nerfs, or probably, actually, here's the answer. Now that I stumble around a little bit, let's come right to it. I think if I could snap my finger and sort of make a change, it would be to more broadly revert some of the stuff that has in the past been nerfed, and it would take quite a bit of work on their end, on the developers' end, to make that work. But I really think it's time, considering the power level of the first X years of the game versus the power level we're seeing now in the more recent times. I think there could be like a grand rebalancing, if you will, and just really start to even some of these more flavorful cards that we know and love from days past, bring them up into the modern time, make them really truly playable again. Well, I've already shouted out my daughter, who's amazing. Support my missus, of course, and this cat apparently that has jumped in my lap. But Dawn, I'd like to shout out you. I really admire the work that you do in bringing AFG from just some creation of yours into sort of this next step that you and the team seems to be prepared to take. And I really admire your tenacity and the sort of positive face you put on all of that in terms of the good, the bad, and just thank you. I appreciate you working with me, even though it's been like a little bit of a rocky ride at times as I've worked to figure out my place in the community. I am grateful for you and everyone else on the team. So thank you.